There we go. There we go. Hey guys, I am checking in. Let me see if you can hear me. It's been a minute. I'm gonna make sure I've got it all squared away. Oops. Hold on. Let me see if I don't think I shared it over. All right, let's see. Let's see. View on YouTube. All right, guys. Here we go. It's been a minute. Let's see. All right. So as you guys come in, just let me know that you're here. Here we go. All right. I'm trying to get it so there's not a feedback. Let's see. I'm trying to remember how I did this. Oh. There we go. All right. Now, welcome in, guys. Listen, I have not done this in so long. I'm working on it. Let me know if you can hear me. Either give me like a thumbs up or a heart in the chat. Just let me know if you can hear everything okay, because I'm debating if I need to use my headphones or not. Okay, yay, awesome, perfect. Just want to make sure I do have headphones on standby. If it gets a little garbled or something like that, just let me know. This is my first time using my new laptop for a live. I believe I may have done it one other time. But how is everybody? Thank you guys for jumping in here. I do appreciate it. I was just sitting around and thinking today, I started to do another car ride conversation. And I was like, you know what? No, I haven't gone live in a while. And because this topic is pretty personal, given the recent events in our family, I just felt it was a good time to come on and to share that. So for those of you joining in that may or may not know, unfortunately, my nieces were in a really bad car accident about a week ago, and the 18-year-old did not make it. And so it's just been a week of hell and heartbreak, and tomorrow is the funeral. And so much has happened in this week that I found myself, even with my sister, my sister flew in, and she's a journalist and she writes, she's a writer as well. And she flew in, and we were just talking about just the different things that we've already learned so much just through this experience, not only as, human beings and sisters. And so here in the South, we have a thing where if you are cousins, like your first cousins, like our moms were sisters, we're so close that we're cousins, like technically, but we all feel like sisters. So when you hear me say my niece and then you hear me say my son's cousin, it's because technically they're our cousins, but our kids all call us aunt and uncle and all the things. But my actual sister is the one who is a writer and journalist, and she flew in. And so she and I were talking about it because we get to compare like creative notes and things like that. And there were several topics that came up. And even as I'm talking to you, I'm going to be writing some down. And that's because I want to make sure I'm not forgetting to share them with you. Okay. And so bear with me because this one just came to mind. This is a really big one. I really don't want to forget it. Not your paddle. Okay. And so many of you who have been here with me for a while, you guys know I did one episode of a grief series, and I've always had every intention of coming back around and finishing that series out. I have rough drafts saved in Google Drive, and it just, it's one of those topics that it just kind of keeps getting pushed to the back, pushed to the back, just pushed to the back. And then now it's just like slapping us all right here. Like here at home, it's right in front of our faces. And while the media was not huge on it here, we did have some issues with the newspaper and the local news station basically putting out information. Like basically my cousin found out about her daughter not making it. Like Life Flight beat her to the hospital, and she was on her way to the hospital, and she was pulling off the main road to turn into the hospital when she got a phone call from the baby's dad telling her that her oldest daughter, Keely, had not made it because they were rushing him to tell her because the news had already gotten the information and they were getting ready to publish it online. So I was trying to get out of work and leave and get to my son because all of our kids go to the same youth group. And I was trying to get to him before the information came, before everything came out. And by the time I got to him, which was probably less than 25 minutes, 30 minutes, they had already found out in the youth group that she didn't make it. And, obviously it didn't happen right then and in that moment. But when my sister and I were talking, it really kind of came full force to me because it's just one of those things where you get the bad news. And it's been a week, guys, a little over a week. And it still doesn't feel real. We're still processing. Some of us have cried a little bit here and there, but many of us have not broken down because we all are trying to be strong for Keely's mom. And just, it's heavy. It's heavy and it's hard because one thing is for sure, everyone grieves differently and everyone is affected differently. And that's really how this ties into where I was going with it with the Watts, because my cousin, who is like, she's the actual like sister of this other cousin. And she's just been like her rock. And she's my best friend. And we were talking about how people have now learned that if you have the do not disturb on her phone, that they can just basically call back to back. And so they're bypassing the do not disturb feature and overriding it and still calling her. And they're calling her about not stupid stuff, but it's stuff that like, it doesn't have to be a double call back. It's one of those things like you text and say, hey, like there's a lot of fundraisers going on for the funeral costs. And our community has been wonderful because nobody, ever plans to have to bury their daughter and not their teenager. And so the community has been absolutely wonderful with helping raise funds for it. It's given her boyfriend um, some purpose in all of this, something that he could do to help. And his fundraiser did pretty well. I think he ended up raising close to 2,000. But she and I were talking, and she said, every time that phone rings, like I go into just panic mode. And I said, no, I get it. And I mean, once upon a time when I was dealing with an abusive ex, he was so obsessed about the text messaging that he would do that back to back to back to back texting. And so I literally it took me almost 2 years to be able, the iPhone ping on the text message. It took me almost 2 years to be able to have that on my phone without it physically affecting me. Like it would physically cause my heart to race. It would physically cause me to get nauseous just to hear the ping on an iPhone. It didn't even have to be mine. And for her, it's the cell phone ring, because, that phone rang and then she got the worst news. And we were just, when my sister and I were talking about it, and it really made me just kind of go back to Sandy and Frank, because we hear in that moment on the, let me grab my dog. He's kind of scratching at the door. But we hear on, come on. Well, don't run into the desk, silly. We hear on that very, on the body cam footage where Shanian's mom is on the phone, and we hear Nicole, panicking, but trying to fill her in on, hey, what's going on? And to think, like, it seems trivial, but I wonder what Sandy was doing that very moment that she got that phone call from Nikki, or from Nicole Atkinson. Like, she's in North Carolina. They're a few hours behind in time. She's probably going about her day. Based on her YouTube channel, she seems to enjoy cooking and doing crafting and things like that, probably working out in the yard. But she just spent 6 weeks with her daughter. It's argumentative. I highly believe that they all knew that they knew something was going to happen. Not so much the murders, but they knew that maybe divorce was looming. And there's plenty of evidence to suggest that they did have at least an idea. But for her to get that phone call, and it's Nicole Atkinson on the other end, and she's telling her, like, look, something's not right, something's not adding up. And then for Sandy to question things, or to have already called, my thing is, I don't understand why call the child's daycare before they even had a chance to, like, before you were ever tipped off or alerted. That's the stuff I don't understand. But we won't go down that rabbit hole tonight. It's just right, Abby. She did. She had been by that time, yes. And she had called very, very early on to the girls' preschool. But point being, that last phone call comes through and things really aren't starting to add up, like, we talk, and I'm very cautious about premonitions and talking about things like that. Just because I know everyone's beliefs are different, and it's absolutely crazy to think that she had some idea that something pertaining to the oil field was going to happen. And I can't help but wonder if there was some type of plan that Shanian was aware of, and it's actually in discovery. I don't have it in front of me. I wasn't planning to go like on a deep dive tonight for this live. But I do know, if you're in our Chris Watts Watts discussion, Chris didn't do this alone or something like that on Facebook. I do know that I've shared it over there before, but there was a plan. And I wonder if Shanann told Sandy about that plan. So even just having somewhat of an idea about the plan, that's where the idea about the oil came into play. Regardless, something in her gut just knew something was off. But at the, like, circling back to the main point for this conversation is just, at some point, it went from being a normal day to the most horrible day, just awful day, of their lives. And sometimes something as simple as a phone ping, something as simple as a phone ringtone, a smell, a color, a sound, and all of that comes flooding back to you. And then you'll have moments where you're perfectly fine. And then it'll hit you like a ton of bricks. And I've talked about it before. Like it comes in waves, and it's, 1 minute you're perfectly fine, and the next minute you can barely hold it together. And I wanted to challenge you guys like that are here, and I really appreciate you hanging in there with me, that I want you to challenge yourself to shift your perspectives on those earlier interviews. And I say this because I am also saying this in regards to Watts, like Cindy and Ronnie Watts. Listen to what they're saying, but listen at it in the correct context and with the correct perspective, not the one versus the other, he said, she said, etc. And here's why. I was at the hospital. We were waiting on Kylie, the baby sister, to get out of surgery. And praise God, she is home, and she's starting to heal. She's in good spirits as much as she can be. And she does have to wear a J collar for her neck. And she's got about, I want to say it's like 6 breaks in her spine, but she's walking, she can talk, everything is as good as it can be. So we were at the hospital because she had to have a surgery on her arm. They had to do like plates and screws in her elbow. And I'm we're in the waiting room. It's me, my cousin, my sister, Keely's mom, and then her dad and his girlfriend and his brother were kind of in the same waiting room, but separated. And obviously, without going too much into their history, like they'd been together a long time ago. They've been separated many years, or like divorced or whatever, like not together for several years. And I'm talking like 8-9 years. So co-parenting, for the most part, it's hit or miss, but they've been doing it. And in this moment, in the waiting room, the hardest part was coming to terms with the fact that one child is not here. And we're waiting on the other one to get stronger. And you can't really grieve the one that's gone, because you got to stay strong and focused on the one that's still here. And that has got to be the worst feeling, one of the worst feelings as a mom. I mean, like, she's my niece, and it's been like ripping us apart, but I can't imagine that as a mom. And so we're sitting in the waiting room, and the mother is talking about, it's very minuscule, small things, like picking apart like petty stuff. Like, I can't believe he brought her here. I can't believe, why would he say this, or why would he whatever. And it was just pick. And it was like This poor guy could not say anything right. He couldn't look the right way, nothing. Like, it didn't matter what he said. And then he was he was doing what he could to try to just kind of like keep it even keel, like he was doing the best to like keep the peace as far as we could tell. And my cousin was just really just struggling in that moment. And she kept saying, well, I don't understand why he doesn't, X, Y, and Z. Like, why is he not feeling this way? Or why is he doing this or whatever? And she was just so focused on him. And I found myself explaining to her, like, listen, you guys are in cycles of grief and they're not on the same page. So, like, in that moment, she was angry. And in that moment, he was just in straight denial, because as long as he didn't have to, like, we hadn't planned the funeral yet at this point. So all they had was a phone call telling them that Keely was gone. And we had the other kid in surgery. So the denial and the focus was different for him. Meanwhile, the mom is going through absolute anger and pissed off. Like, everything was making her mad. And then it wasn't long after that, like, she walked away for a little bit and then broke down crying. And then next thing you know, she's right back at the same. I mean, you physically could see the shifting that was going on. It was, and you could see it with her and you could see it with him. And I think those of us who are still we've had a lot of teenagers, very, very close to Keely. And so a lot of the teenagers, like my kids, her kids, we've got kids from the high school, we've got the boyfriend, I'll show you guys a picture in a minute, that this all, I'm going to see, share this tab and let's see if you guys can see it. Let me get over here to the thing. I don't know if you can see it in the photo, but we have the kids all came out, and you can see where the guys were coming out and putting the cross here, and you just had friends coming and dropping the flower. But I was out here when this memorial had just been put up, and while we were standing out there, one of the officers that was there, that pulled one of the girls out, he stopped by and stayed with us for a good 20 minutes or so. And, the law enforcement was like, we really want to be able to come. And we, as a family, fully embrace our law enforcement and thank them for everything that they've done. But these teenagers have just been coming to the site, and this is the scene of the crash. And they've been coming out, bless their hearts. And so we've just been trying to, like, stay strong and be able to be there for them and answer questions and just love on them. And so we haven't really had a chance to let go. And so all of us are going through our cycles of grief right now. I mean, it's, and like I said, it's been a little over a week, and it still feels like she's just at home with her mom, and I didn't really get to see her a whole lot all the time. But it's one of those things, like, I remember when she was a baby and how she would just be like so wiggly in my lap and she would never sit still. And I remember her mom, and when she was getting ready to name her, and I was so just couldn't believe her mom was going to spell her name the way that she did. And she, her reasoning for it. And, like, I so remember those moments. But my son came home I told him, and he went to the hospital with us that first night, and he was like, "Mom, I was just talking to Keely at the lunchroom the other day." And that's probably been one of the hardest things, is like reconciling how you feel when you just saw them. And I mean, you guys think about, I know everyone's got their opinions on this case and stuff, but think about how Nicole Atkinson must have felt. Like, she dropped her off and watched her walk in the house, and she never saw her again. And, Shanann's parents put her, they got her on the plane, and they never saw her again. Her brother said goodbye, and they never saw her again. And sometimes it's as simple as, like, Keely and her sister got in the car, and they were headed to Tractor Supply to get some medicated shampoo for their dog, because Keely's dog has very sensitive skin. And, her mom's last text to her was, "Text or call me when you get home." And we tell our kids that all the time. And that phone call didn't come. It came from her dad in, like, the most awful way. And it's just kind of brought a lot of things back front and center, because you have to think about, as much as some people don't want to think about Cindy and Ronnie. They were only getting, there's 3 sides to the story, guys. There's his side, her side, and the truth. They were only getting what they had been hearing and seeing from Chris, and then their own, opinions of Shanann, regardless of what it was. That's what they had that summer. And then, just as, Sandy and Frank put Shanann back on the plane, Chris went on the plane, and they didn't really get a lot of time with him while he was there. And they get on the plane, the whole dang family goes back to Colorado, and suddenly everything is completely different, and it's awful. And so they're going off of what they've been told. They're going off of, whatever conversation it was that Chris had with them that prompted him to write that note. And I'm looking at, me too, Abby. I feel for them, and I don't know if it's because I'm a boy mom myself. But, like, my biological father, before he died, his whole entire life he spent behind bars. And he did stupid stuff. And half the time it was just violating probation. He would go back in, but it was, but he had some pretty serious charges. And I can tell you, my grandmother she's like my second mom. She's the only, she's my heart. And I watched her my whole entire life love her son from a distance and love him regardless of him being in prison. And so I feel like I had a very awesome upbringing as far as unconditional love. Like, I've seen that from a parent's perspective. I've been given it. The good Lord has graced me with that. And, Cindy and Ronnie, that anger phase of grief, it doesn't only pertain to the ones who lost somebody. Like it doesn't just pertain to Shanann's family. It goes for them too. Like, they're going to have reasons for being angry. Do you think for a second that Sandy and Frank and Frankie Jr. did not go through an anger phase of their losses? Do you think they weren't angry that Shanann didn't just stay? Do you think they weren't angry that Chris did what he did? Or you think they're not angry that they felt like maybe they should have seen something, or maybe they should have said something? Like, the anger is not always just directed at one situation or one person. It goes all over the place. And a lot of times that anger ping pongs off. And I mean, it just bounces and it goes subject to subject, topic to topic, and person to person, just anything and everything. Like in this last week, when the media released all of this information and the hospital did it. I mean, that was the part that pissed me off, was the hospital gave out the information prior to sitting down with the mother and the father of this child and saying, hey, I'm sorry, despite our best efforts, she didn't make it. And that's absolutely, Abby. Their pain is very real. And I can say that because like I said, I've sat there and I've watched my own grandmother through the years cry over his birthday, cry over wishing that my father would have been present and available and not make stupid decisions when I was growing up. Like, your love for your kid doesn't go away because they do these horrible things. Something clearly was not right. And then that's where YouTube and everything else, the platforms and all the things, that's where that stuff comes into play. Which brings me to the next thing is that, the media, like I said, we're about almost a week and a half out from the car crash. The media did about running with the story before the mother even was given the proper, updating, being told what was going on. I mean, set the scene for you. My best friend called me screaming her head off because this is the niece that made her an aunt. And this was the first niece that was born that died. And she calls me and she's crying, and I hear my aunt crying, and I hear the mother just screaming. And when they finally were able to tell me what was going on, guys, this mom and this grandma were on their hands and knees in the parking lot at the hospital. All because the media ran with the story and they had to jump to make a phone call to tell the mom that her daughter was dead. And now the same media that didn't think twice about doing that turns around and they want to interview for the fish fry that's coming up to raise funds for the funeral. And they didn't understand at first why family was declining interviews. Well, first and foremost, they already had everything they needed. It was a car accident. They knew the facts of it. And you didn't have the common decency to give the family a minute to breathe or even to be properly instructed or informed of what was going on. And then you want to come back to the family and say, oh, let's get an exclusive. You can go screw your exclusive. That's exactly how you feel. And so I would just like to say that's why on this channel, I'm very particular about the content that gets put out. That's why some things take forever to get out, because if I'm working on it and I either feel like I need to do more extensive, whether it's research or I need to, some things I'll reword 15 different times. And it's because there's a time and a place to talk about topics. And I feel like with this case, we're coming up on 8 years. Now is the time to really, if we're going to discuss this case objectively, this is a reasonable, in my opinion, time to start talking about it. Not the week that it happened. not the month after it happened. Like, I can understand wanting to put out like your exclusive interview or to do like a discussion. I understand that. However, like, I definitely can empathize and sympathize with them on what it's like to have the media basically rip the carpet out from underneath you, knock you flat on your ass, and then turn around and say, "Oh, can we get an exclusive?" Like, no, you can't. So, moving on to the next topic, because it is important, there were some facts. I'm gonna share with you about my niece, and then we'll go into Shanann. There are some facts about the accident that do not need to go unrecognized or untalked about, because it has potential to save teenagers' lives. First and foremost, neither girl was wearing their seatbelt. And this was something that was in the Facebook groups in our hometown. It was going just everywhere. It was spreading like wildfire that they didn't wear their seatbelts. Both girls were ejected from the vehicles. That is a fact. Both of those are facts. She veered off the road, and when she straightened it back up, she overcorrected. And she was trying to straighten it back out. And when she, I guess, either looked up or like she went from like one side of the road completely to the other. And when she looked up, there was a van coming, and it's almost like she completely panicked when she saw the van. And so she snatched the wheel again. And when she did, that's when they completely lost control of everything. Can this be taught in driver's ed? It should be. Why is driver's ed not a mandatory like requirement anymore? It used to be. It's not anymore. These kids drive one block and they get their driver's license. Like, they talk about defensive driving, but like you also like kids these days, the maturity level, we talk about it all the time, like amongst the parents, the maturity level of kids these days is nowhere near what it was 20 years ago. 30 years ago. And you can see it. And it was very eye-opening even to my son, because my son just the week prior had gotten his driver's license. And he's my baby. And Mom, can I drive? Mom, can I drive? Mom, and just nonstop. And then after this happened, he's like, Mom, I had a panic attack the first time I got behind the wheel after the girl's accident. And we talked through it. And even talking to Keely's dad, he was like, I told her, if you run off the road, like, don't snatch the wheel. Don't snatch the wheel. Good night, Abby. We'll be wrapping up soon. So like at 38 minutes, then just like you can watch it from then on and you'll get the rest of it. But, even he was like, I told her about not snatching the wheel and things like that. But, the truth is that you can talk to kids about it. You can share your thoughts and your opinions and your suggestions, recommendations, and you don't know how you will react or how they will react until they're in that situation. And unfortunately, in our case, it resulted in one of ours not making it home and the other one losing her sister. And then as far as, the Watts go, can we talk about social media, influence on it? Yes. Can we talk about covert narcissism? Yes. Can we talk about suppressing emotions and not being able to express your feelings? Yes. Can we talk about how it's actually unhealthy that you quote unquote never argue? Can we talk about how one person running the entire household and the other one working and being completely disconnected from it? Can we talk about the significance of that? Yeah, we need to. Can we talk about the intoxication that happens, or the intoxication that happens with, I'm like making up words here, the intoxication of affairs, how strong that is, how strong that pull is. Can we talk about the illusion of social media photos and posts and what's actually happening in reality? I mean, guys, we see the videos and we see the photos of the girls in Watts. Before we knew what was actually happening in the case, it was like, oh, they're having family time at the beach and all of this. Have you guys ever been in a relationship where you knew something was wrong and your stomach is in knots the whole time, but then you've still got to go before family and act as if everything's okay just to try to like get through that moment? Have you ever had to do that? And if you have, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. You cannot feel the photos and the emotions that they were feeling in that very moment without all of the facts. But the truth is social media, YouTube, news media outlets have been extremely insensitive and disrespectful to both sets of families in this case. And that is my humble, open, very transparent thought. And that's, one of the reasons why certain comments get deleted off my channel, why I won't tolerate, I don't even like to call them trolls, but like, if you're going to ask an objective question, ask an objective question. I'm here for it all day long. Let's talk and discuss things. But to sit back and say that Frankie Jr. has no right to be so angry and this, that, and the other, they do. They do. Because now that's compounded grief on top of them that they're going to have to work through. Now, can we talk about the fact that going online and taunting other people and saying, well, we know we have what you want, but we're not going to give it to you? Going on and stirring the pot, if you will, regardless of reason why, because some people say, oh, they did it for money and oh, they did it for X, Y, and Z. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They did it. So is that something to talk about? And it is. The truth is, you ignore the media eventually will die down and get on to the next story, usually. And the main reason most people are in some of these chat groups and lives is because it's case specific. I know that I've been wanting to dive into several other cases, and every time I start to do that, my viewers and subscribers are saying, hey, when's the next Watts video coming out? Let's talk about Watts. And that's honestly, I feel like, because as a society, that this case speaks to multiple generations, because it speaks to our country and our world as a whole and where we are right now when it comes to business, when it comes to working remotely, when it comes to relationships. Loco Jazz, what do you mean except when it's NK? I don't mind having a discussion with you a little bit more, but I'm just curious what you're talking about. So basically, I wanted to touch base with you guys, let you know that, all right. So we talked about this one. See, this is why I wrote that one down, because this is a big one. I really want to make sure I share it with you guys tonight. And that is something that my sister and I both talked about, was knowing boundaries and when it's not your battle, and how that can actually help you with the grieving process. Like I said, my cousin, the sister to the mother who lost her daughter, she's kind of been like the point person in the family that's been handling everything. And there was one time when Like I said, she is my ride or die. She is my best friend. And it's one of those things, like, if she ever needs something, like, I am always here for her. And she's always there for me too. Um, Loco Jazz, I'll address that in just a second, okay? Um, so she's like the point person, and I know she's been holding it together, and I know her heart is absolutely broken because Keely, like, basically lived with her for like 2 years. So she was very, very close for many reasons. Like I said, this was the first niece that made her an aunt. And she's just like, I've been worried about her. And so one day, like, I just invited myself and showed up at dinner because I just wanted to check on her. And, she's appreciative, but obviously she's just hurting. And I forget what it was. Like, there was it's one of those things where, like, when you're trying to help, but then you almost start to feel like you're imposing, or like, I don't know. It's just something wasn't feeling right. And so my sister and I were talking about it, and I'm like, it's kind of one of those things where, people get mad at some of the simplest things. And most of the time it's absolute miscommunication. Um, and the person that offended you doesn't even have a clue that they've offended you. And so a lot of it is looking at the situation and just knowing when to, respectfully, like, back up and still respect your own boundaries. Because when you're trying to assist and help others, chances are you're giving up things in your own life and moving things around. And unfortunately, with tragedies, life does not just stop. And it basically, like, we just had prom. We had junior and senior prom just 2 weeks ago. And this was Keely in her prom dress. Just so pretty. So this was just 2 weeks ago for prom. And just gorgeous hair. Goodness gracious. And so 2 weeks ago we were, it was prom. And so of course they do with girls, I think it's like the rave now is to have like professional photos taken. And so they had done professional photos with my other niece, and my cousin got the photos back, and they were beautiful photos. And she's like, I'm so excited about the photos and I want to share them, but she felt like she couldn't share them. And then my sister got published on the front page of a newspaper back in her hometown, and she was really excited about that. And her new book, Chasing Time, has been doing really well, and she made like Amazon's top 25 list when it debuted. And I'm very proud of her. And so she's had some really exciting accomplishments. She just finished her first class for a master's. It's like we've all had, like, I started a new job. Like, I was able to go back to night shift, which I'm excited about. That's why I get to do YouTube lives and more videos, and I feel like a normal person, because for whatever reason I was born nocturnal. And I got my thrift store started. So if you guys are not over on AVM, it's AVM Thrifts on YouTube. It's just getting started, but if you are into DIYs and thrifting, you guys can follow me. I'll put it here in the comment section just so you guys can have it. And so if you guys go and you find me, you can follow me over there. But like, so many awesome things are happening, and it's like you want to share them, but at the same time you're like, holy crap, like, you almost have, it's like survivor's guilt, and you just feel like you shouldn't be excited about these things, because you know that somebody that you love is going through absolute hell. And, we were just talking about recognizing, like, when this, it's not our battle to feel it as deeply as if it were one of our children. Like, yes, you empathize, but you can't stay there, because when you stay there, that's when it really starts to tear you down. And you can't be there for somebody if you're breaking yourself. And so just want to encourage you guys, like, as you are, Lord willing, you're not having to deal with a tragedy like this or worse, but that, when you're dealing with difficult people, or you're in a situation, you start to feel overwhelmed, make sure you take a minute and, make sure you take a minute and you identify, like, what is your battle to be fighting? Like, is it yours or is it someone else's responsibility? And then make sure you go after it however you see fit. And of course, like, love on those that need to be loved on. Be there, be strong, be encouraging, and be a light for these people. But especially if you empathize, like most of us do in our family, like, we're empaths to, like, the 500th degree. It can be debilitating at times, but just, you got to keep your head clear. Just shift your perspective and try to take a step back sometimes. And it can be difficult. It can be very difficult, but I just want to encourage you moving forward. I do have that emotional conversations video is coming out. I do have a new series on grief. I'm going to complete, I'll say a new one. I did one episode. I will be coming back to complete that series on grief. I feel like many people have reached out and have been sharing their stories, and just, no doubt, it's something that many could benefit from as well. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys for your prayers, and again, just the support from afar, and being patient. Life doesn't stop or slow down when these things happen, but obviously we talk about prioritizing what's important, and this has just been absolutely devastating for our family. I do ask that you keep her mom and dad and sister and my bestie Kimmy in your prayers, because it's tomorrow's gonna be hard, especially the kids. But so coming up, we have the grief series will continue. The emotional conversations video that I've been working on forever will be coming out. One of my concerns or issues that I keep running into sometimes is just, we're coming up on 8 years, and outside of the photographs that I took when I was in Colorado, which I'll be sharing more of. I can't believe that trip was all the way in January, and it's it's May now. To be fair, I did have a major surgery right after getting back from that trip, so that's why I haven't uploaded anymore for the Colorado trip. But excuse me. But there's more to come with that, and I really wouldn't mind getting out there. I don't think I can swing August, because I'm already having to take my son to Texas for college. But I wouldn't mind making another trip out to Colorado, but maybe by the end of the year I'll get back out there. Her nail tech is phenomenal, and she did such a wonderful job when I was out there. This next time I think I'll get a mani and a pedi while I'm there. But yeah, so new content, new videos coming out. But the new content and the videos that will be coming out, you guys are going to have to shift your perspectives, and you're going to have to take this live into consideration when you're watching those videos. And Loco, I want to go back to your comment. You said the media eventually dies down after a while. Oh, excuse me again. The media eventually dies down after a while when you don't engage with them, except for NK. And yes and no. The thing is with everyone else in this case, there's not really any pressing conversations that would have to be had. I would love to sit down with both Sandy and Cindy. Like, I would love to sit down with both of them. Maybe not together, but just to talk to them. But just mother to mother. But like, we've heard from the family multiple times. We've heard from Frankie Jr. multiple times. We've heard from, we have several different sources to pull from. Kessinger, there are no follow-ups. And there's so many open ends that I will say, what I will say about NK is this. She is still innocent in a court of law. Like, she's not been found guilty in a court of law. So therefore, she is to be seen as innocent. So should she be able to just live her life normally? Yes. I feel like there is a false, I believe it is very false, sense of direct interest in Kessinger. I know that it's very strong in our communities, like the true crime communities. I know that it's very prominent. Like, I mean, that's like, it's a big, big deal in our communities. However, I can tell you, being in Colorado, she is nothing more than a blip on a radar of a bunch of blips, because she blends in so well with everyone that's around there. And it doesn't matter if you are in Greeley. It doesn't matter if you're in Frederick. It doesn't matter if you are up in Estes Park. It doesn't matter where you are. You can be in Denver. You can be in Boulder. You can be in Golden. It doesn't matter. I went to all of these different locations. I can tell you, she's like a dime a dozen out there. So unless someone is out there actively like searching for her, even then, I mean, every time I was looking around like, ooh, am I going to run into her? Like, I mean, I was right there in her neck of the woods. Now, granted, it was snowing, and no, I'm not about to go out there and freeze to death trying to talk to somebody. But I do think that I do believe that the way her being found during that funeral was distasteful. I showed a still shot of it, like a photograph snapshot of her there, because yes, it is indeed her. And it is the first time that we've seen her since the case. But she lost somebody. And I know many people are like, I don't care. Like, she's got some involvement in this, blah, 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 all the things. And here's the thing. I'm not saying, you guys know, I raise questions. I did a whole Defending Kessinger series. And at the end of every single episode, I'm saying, I could defend her, but this is why I can't. And so, to this day, guys, like, there are certain questions that, can you explain them away? Yeah. But I'm working on a video where, like, I'm going to put together a bunch of video clips and you guys are going to tell me like what the problem is, and you guys are going to see it. Like, this is the only case where some of these questions have gone unanswered and not been pressed. So it's numbingly frustrating that she should be able to walk, eat, sleep, and breathe like a free person. And I guess technically she does. I don't believe the pressure to find her and to see her or communicate with her, that is just not out there in person. I think it's more of just an online thing. And so sometimes we have to make sure that we don't get that tunnel vision based off of what we see online and assume that that's how the whole world feels, because, you know, we have several people in lives and that come on and they're part of these communities, but they're still not the majority. So just something to think about. So I do think it's died down, but I think when we get into our communities and our groups, that the hyper focus is still there, because I mean, there's still questions to have answered that no one's been accounted for. Like, no one's been accountable for them. So I think I'm going to wrap it up, guys. Again, if you are interested, Avon Thrifts is the new channel. It is for my thrift store, and it's just, I'll be doing all kinds of fun things like around Christmas time. It'll just be a lot of fun. If someone you know is in a domestic violence situation, they're trying to get out and they're having to start over, this is a good channel for them, because I will be showing tips and tricks on how, whenever I was starting over, I mean, literally sitting in the floor of my kitchen with no furniture, sleeping on the floor in my apartment, like, I show you how I got out of that and have now been able to, you know, fully decorate and curate my like entire living space. And so it's a lot of fun. It's a good pick-me-up channel. It was one of those things where we talk about all of the darkness on this channel. And so the Avon Thrifts channel is a channel where we can talk about something a little bit lighter. You can get inspired to be creative. And there will be a charity that is directly linked with that channel to help domestic violence victims. So it's a big project I have going on over there. I haven't advertised it a lot on this channel just because, while I don't mind it, I know many people would be supportive, I also want to be respectful to those who, you know, come here for the true crime and they don't want to feel like they're being sold something else. So not here to do that, but I do want to give the channel a shout out and just say, if you guys don't mind, I am trying to get it monetized so I can get the charity up off the ground. And in order to do that, I have to hit that 1K. So new content's coming over there as well. And guys, I'm really excited about what's coming. We've got to get our family through this hardship right now. But thank you guys for listening. I hope this touched your heart in some way, and hope it allowed you to just kind of, you know, maybe reflect a little differently, especially thinking about the cycles of grief, guys. Just remember, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, an entire family can be going through the cycles of grief, and they're not all going to be on the same stage. So it can look so different, and it can just be like the clashing of a nightmare. I mean, you've got, oh, thank you. It's good to know, because I posted over there. I just hadn't posted over on that page in a while, and I felt bad posting, but I'm glad you're here for that, or from that. But yeah, so just the cycles of grief are just, they can be different for everyone at different times. And if you aren't aware of them, it can feel like people are just being absolutely difficult and inconsiderate and rude. And, unsympathetic and not hurting. And I think we see this a lot in the early stages of the Watts. And I feel like it has been an absolute mispercept. Like it's just been missed. The proper perspective has been missed in the beginning stages, and people just ran with it. The media ran with those interviews and everything. Oh, thank you. Hi, Sprinkle Donut. I would love a sprinkle donut right now, but I have to settle for my Coca-Cola. Thank you for subscribing. I really appreciate it. The people who are in different cycles at different times, it can really come across differently. And we have to make sure that we are being objective. We say that word, but very rarely do people apply it before they start commenting and spewing off their thoughts. And so just keep that in mind when you start seeing the new content coming out, because we're getting to a point with this case where it's almost 8 years in, which is so crazy because, guys, we are almost at the point where we've been covering their deaths as long as they were married. Like, can you believe that, guys? Like, they had been dating, or their dating anniversary in 2018 was 8 years. Now we're almost 8 years out from the anniversary. And 8/8, in my opinion, is the anniversary of when Kessinger met Watts for the first time at the meeting that we have documentation for. So the 8s keep coming up. I'm not really like a numerology kind of buff or anything like that. But I will tell you guys this. I have it over here. Let me see. Let me click it. Oop, that's not it. All right. So I found this on Facebook the night of the accident. I had just been like laying in bed, and I had just gotten home, trying to figure out how to unclick this thing. There we go. I had just gotten home, and we learned about my niece passing that day. The baby was still in the ICU. We had just gotten home from the hospital. So I'm just like, you know how you like just numbness scroll at night. And so I'm looking at it, and Keely, it's crazy. I guess it's just a generational thing. I don't know. Let me know if you guys do it or not with your kids, but like, we grew up watching Grey's Anatomy. I still put it on in the background. Like if I'm cleaning or even when I'm like going to sleep, I will like reruns of Grey's Anatomy stay on my TV. And it's, oh wow. Yeah. November. So Grey's Anatomy is something that we grew up watching. And, our babies were babies at the time, and now they're all teenagers. Like even my son will come in and watch it with me now. Like so now we all watch Grey's Anatomy with our kids. And the last weekend before Keely passed, she was taking Easter pictures with all the granddaughters. Like all the girl cousins were dressed up in like Easter dresses, and they were at their grandma's, and they were all taking pictures. And I guess the only dress Keely could find was her black one. Like she just put her black dress on. And so picture this, like everyone of the cousins are in I'm talking floral, pastels, full on like Easter clothing. Keely goes out and she's in her black dress, and they were all like, come on, like, let's go. And she was the last one to get out there. And Keely turned around to her mom. She's like, I know, Mom, I'm late to my own funeral. Kid you not, this kid said this like the week before this accident, like 7 days before this accident happened. And then that night, laying in bed, I'm scrolling through Facebook, and this pops up. It says, just a reminder that Derek Shepard passed away on April 23rd, 2015 at 9:19 p.m. Thanks a lot, Shonda Rhimes. Derek, if you guys aren't familiar, and spoiler alert if you haven't gotten to this season yet, but Derek, one of the main characters in Grey's Anatomy, died in a car accident on the same date that my niece died in her car accident. So I don't know what it is. Maybe it's something, maybe it's nothing. I know that some people believe in, I don't know. I hate the word conspiracy because I feel like it denounces, it takes away from the actual relevance of something. Like, I mean, something has merit and has weight. We all know that words are powerful, but it was just crazy. And so when you think about dates, like we're coming up on the 8th year, it's the same amount of years that they've now been dead that they were dating. 8/8, again, the date that I will, I don't want to say I put my hand on the bottom, but I'm supposed to, because I'm telling you, 8/8, in my opinion, that's their anniversary. That, to me, that is Kessinger and Chris Watt's anniversary date. I think, honestly, if we had more of the photos and text messages that were going back and forth between Watts and Kessinger, because, guys, we don't have anywhere near all of those. If we had all of that, I think we would see that. We would have that proof. And I still think we already have that proof, because we have proof of the meeting that took place on 8/8. And it was a safety meeting for all the new hires and the people that were coming in. And she would have been one of those. And so anyway, it was just interesting. Call it coincidence. I don't know. Talk to law enforcement. They'll tell you all the time they don't believe in coincidences. And so it's just interesting. Very, very interesting how things like that happen. But thank you, Sprinkle Donut. Tomorrow for sure is going to be a tough one. So I do think I'm going to wrap it up, guys. I appreciate you guys being here. And if you guys are like listening in, or you jumped in a little bit later, it would help the video and the live. It helps the channel if you guys want to go back and like listen in from the beginning. If you hear me talk about like putting something up, like it's one of those lives you can listen to, but if you hear me talk about like putting an image up or something like that, there's only about 3 images. So if you see 3 images, then you've seen everything for this live as far as what I shared on the screen. But I think I'm going to lose my voice, and my little pup kid has already passed out on me. So I think I'm going to call it a night, guys. Do you guys have any questions? I did post in the short. If there's any cases you guys are interested in, let's see that. Let's see. Are you guys interested in any additional cases? I'm talking, there's the Adelson case is stalled out again right now. We were hoping it was a go, and it's not. So we've got the Adelson case. We've got, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. I want to reach out to this lady's family. So I'll hold off on that one. You got Adelson, of course. You got Watts. Is anyone familiar with the case of Sierra Breland? If you know anything about Sierra Breland, I would love to speak with you. I have Karen Reed. That one, Boy, I can't believe they're retrying her already. I will tell you that. Cannot believe that they have already started the retrial of her. What, Loco, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think she's guilty or innocent? The only thing in that case that I really was able to watch from like start to finish was the defense's closing argument. And I can tell you, based on that closing argument and the way he put it together like that, there's no way I would have been able to convict her. It's crazy. Yeah, I do. I honest to God believe she was indeed framed, which is crazy because, people always talk about conspiracy this, conspiracy that. And that's what I'm saying. It's not a conspiracy if there are facts to back up some of the claims. Or I guess maybe it's conspiracy, but it's not a theory. Like, I don't know. I hate how that phrase gets thrown around. The what was epic? The defense's closing argument was awesome. That was one of the best closing arguments I had heard, was Karen Reed's defense attorney in that first trial. Jennifer Dulos. I'll touch in on that case. See my phone. I've got a list started in my phone as well on cases that I'll be looking at too. Let's see. Oh, and I did find additional evidence. I'll be sharing it in a video, but I did find additional evidence to prove yet again that there was zero CPS case anything in the Watts. There was not a Child Protective Services open case for Chris or Shanann, period. End of discussion. All there is to it. It was not anything to do with that. Yes, that was Gannon is the one that they found in the suitcase over here in Jacksonville, correct? I'm pretty positive because I had actually considered driving not Jacksonville, Pensacola. I'd considered driving. I have to drive to Pensacola with my kid pretty frequently, so I actually considered driving over there because I wanted to visit and locate where the suitcase was found. That case was crazy to me. Like, watching the body cam footage just made me sick, like absolutely sick. I need to write that down too. Let me see. I've got a video topic one. Someone had actually told me to look up the case of Anna Repkina. I don't know if you guys have heard of that one yet. Yeah, the CPS thing, it bothers me, but it's one of those things, it wouldn't have surprised me if that were the case. I mean, even like really good parents get CPS called on them. All it takes is someone to get flustered and, think that, I don't know, just make a phone call. But I did find absolute proof that, in fact, it is not a CPS. And I know people have, we've gone to the clerk, they've confirmed it. We know for a fact it was not that. I'm trying to see. I'm looking, guys, just to see if they're I do have a video coming up talking about the exits in Colorado. Longmont, Saratoga, how long it takes to jump from exit to exit in that area. Little trivia fact, did you guys know that the Stevenson Lexus dealership and the Toyota dealership used by both Shanann and Kessinger are on the same exact service road? I'll share this again in my Colorado video, but those of you sticking around, and there's 10 of you in here, so just so you guys know, a little bit, these are just some notes I had from Colorado that I'm sharing with you. So no one's heard these yet. These are just from me being in Colorado, driving around. These are some observations that I made when I was out there. Make a video on which one? Ellen Greenspan, what is that? Who is, I've got this, I'm going to look this person up and see if this is a case or if this was like a person I was supposed to remember. Oh, this was a good one. Well, not a good one. This one was brutal, but this is one that I will be. Oh my goodness. No way. Now I really have to do it. The survivor actually passed away this year or last year. Holy crap. I have to dig a little deeper, make sure it's the same person, because like there can be similar names, but Melissa Oxley was the child of the mother who was murdered in her home, and she basically identifies like her dad as the perpetrator. It's a pretty twisted case, but there were the reason I went down that rabbit hole with that case was because of the concept that Chris Watts said in his interview, that the girls got, woke up, and that's why they then became part of the plan. Like, they weren't part of the plan initially, but then that's basically what ended up, like, they saw too much. And this case with Melissa Oxley is actually a case where the kid did get up and the kid did see something, and she did explain who it, like what he looked like, who it was, all the things. And it's a very interesting, it's a dark case, but it's very interesting. The Ellen Greenspan case did that? Yes, Sprinkle Donut. Letitia she is definitely a character. That was just evil. Absolute evil. Let me see. Oh, Alyssa Burkett. That's another one that I'll be covering pretty extensively, actually. There will be a video coming out about the ways out from Watts. We're going to talk about how God gives and takes away, and how the loss was very detrimental, but also how God gave and gave and gave. So we're going to have an uplifting video, hopefully, for the family that will be coming out. Hopefully, sometimes when you count your blessings, it just helps you lift up out of a dark area, dark spot. And so I have that. I will ask you guys, has anyone that's been diving through Discovery, has anyone located a mint green notebook from Shanann? Like a photo of it or anything like that? If you have, drop it in the comments, let me know. Because I have a note in here about a mint green notebook. It's mentioned in Nicole Atkinson's police interview, and I believe I saw it in her nightstand. However, I'm curious. I know the Hold Me Tight or the Hold Me Tight book is a mint green. I'm curious if she was working through the workbook. I did actually go out and purchase the Hold Me Tight book, and I did an audio review of that on my channel a while back, but I did not buy the workbook. So I'm kind of curious if you guys are stumbling through old photos, looking through Discovery, if you see anything about a mint green notebook in the Shanann Watts case, let me know. Well, Atkinson says it was in her purse. I want to say I saw it in the nightstand. And I'm curious because that letter that Shanann left him it didn't just come out. You know, she has a notebook that she would like scribble down her plans in. She does it all the time. You can see it in the photo of her and let me see. I don't know if I have it here. The photo of Shanann and Atkinson at the nail salon. Let me see if I can find it. Like when they were here we go. I'm almost to it. When they were at the nail salon that last time together. Well, I will tell you guys. Well, I was trying to find the photo real quick, but I don't want to like drag this out. The photo of, I have it on my phone that I can easily access. Well, let me see if I can send it over. I listed it on the Facebook post whenever I made the Facebook post for you guys. Oh, let me just do that then. That's quicker. Here, let me just do this. Hold on to that tab because I'm going to have to come back to that and see if that's the same person. All right, let's see. Here we go. So in this photo, so see this photo right here? You've got, let's see. Her book here is black. Even on the bottom, it's that darker color. So, so this is the book that she was writing in just prior to the San Diego trip. Keep in mind, they are getting their nails done. And guys, this was so surreal when I went to Colorado and interviewed her nail tech, to be sitting there and sitting in a booth where like she had gotten her nails done. Oh, that's the other video that's coming, is to stand where she stood. I went into different areas of Colorado and visited places that I've seen in her photos where she was. And oh, it was just a moment. That's really like the only way I know to describe it, at least right at the moment. Man, that was powerful. But this is the last time she got her nails done before San Diego. And then that mint color didn't start coming through until the Hold Me Tight book came in. Uh-oh. Let's see. I'm not quite sure what. Can you hear me now? It's getting a little bit later. I'm kind of wearing down a bit. Hold on. Okay, what about now? How's that? Here we go. Loco, let me know if you can hear me now. I just turned the second page off just to make sure it wasn't going to give feedback. Guys, I've got Loco mentioning the mic and the audio. Can someone else let me know if it's happening on your end as well? We're running into about an hour 30, so it may be the timing. All right. So I'm looking at my notes one more time just to see. Okay, good. Okay, perfect. I just don't want to be like screaming into my computer and blasting your poor eardrums. All right. So the Weston Snowmass Resort, that's the resort that Shanann had booked for them to go on that trip. When she got back, I will be covering observations about that resort, pricing, booking it, what all of that looks like. Definitely will be covering that. I do want to ask you guys one thing before I go, and that is, do you think Shanann's drive and Shanann's focus and mission to whether she was actually doing better or not, do you think, and I think it's a simple answer, but do you think that her marriage to her first husband, do you think she ever healed from that marriage before getting with Chris? Like healed, not the everything we see on her Facebook that proves that or suggests that she did not, but what are your thoughts on it? Thank you, Shannon. I appreciate that. Thank you, Loco. I really appreciate you being here. Sometimes when that happens, I have to put in headphones, so I don't know if you have those. But thank you so much for being here and for your feedback. I really do appreciate it. So I guess, guys, I'm going to wind it down. I'm going to close it out tonight. I appreciate you being here. Like I said, if you just joined or if you're watching the replay, hit a hashtag replay. Let me know you're watching it. And I think she was looking forward. Let's see. I do think she was I do agree. I think that's the easiest way to say it. I do agree with you. I think, and this is, again, something that we'll cover in a later video, but there's different ways that we can heal from our past. And sometimes healing comes with that next step too. Lord, I could write a book on dating. I can tell you that dating online these days is absolutely just, it's a nightmare. I mean, I will share that I do have someone that I've been talking to. So that's about the newest thing in my personal life. But like the newest positive thing as far as the dating world goes, it's crazy. But I think about how she talks about how she pushed and pushed and pushed, and she wasn't like all on board with him right away. And then it's kind of one of those, like, she grew to love him, she grew to like him, and then it was, she was, yeah, yeah, I get that too. Um, which is, oh, I'm so gonna save your comments. Okay, listen, I'm taking a photo, literally, of my screen right now to keep your comment right here. This will be a video on its own, because what you just said in this comment, in my opinion, is proof that if they wanted to get through that affair with Kessinger, they could have gotten through it. They really could have gotten through it. And that's why I know everybody feels the same way, as far as, like, I just wish they had gotten help. I wish they had gotten help with their marriage before it had gotten to that point. And see, this is what happens. I get a topic like this, something comes up, and it's like the ideas just start going. And that's why I started doing the car ride conversations, because this is how it works for me. I'll read something, see something, and it will send me, literally, it's like the video would write itself. Like, I think I'm going to have to pay for some of these tools that I can use where I don't have to, like, double back on my work, because then maybe the videos will get out faster. But, like, there are ways that a marriage can bounce back after an affair, but it is difficult, and it literally takes both people metaphorically dying to themselves in order to be able to get past it and get through it, without continuing to rehash it through the years. But I agree with you. It seems like the first one, she was more apt to leave. This was different. And Anna, you're saying Chris Warshanian down. Yep. I was married to one of those worst ones. So this right here, this is the day, like, this is the darkness and the light right here. Because what Sprinkled said is exactly why I think she was fighting as hard as she was, or why she was really, like, at the end, like, just she was spiraling in her own way of trying to figure out what the heck to do to save the marriage. And then this right here, this comment is exactly, I forgot that I have touch screen. So this comment is precisely why it was so dangerous. Because when someone is maliciously, intentionally trying to break you down to a point, like, that is so, so dangerous, because at one point someone's going to snap. I do believe, like, I believe they loved each other. I do believe that. Or I should say, I do believe that she loved him. I do question if, in fact, I think he had love for her. I don't know that he loved her. And I keep going back to the question of what I don't buy the responses that have been given for why the Watts did not attend the wedding. For me to not attend my son's wedding, like, it would have to be something absolutely just like reprehensible. I don't know. Like, it would take, I don't even know what it would take for me not to be there for my son, like when he gets married. But on the flip side, I would also be very, and both of my boys know it, I would be very verbal with them to let them know whether I supported them getting married to someone or not. And those things do matter because your family, um, they're still very much going to be a part of your lives. So ideally, you have their support. And so I question if he ever actually got over what happened back at their marriage. Oh, excuse me. Oh my gosh, it's almost midnight here. Yeah, I think he has ideas, and I think he's very much like, if he watches TV, then he thinks he understands a concept, and so then therefore he knows what love is, or therefore he thinks he, like, that's what I'm saying. I don't know that he ever reconciled his actual feelings of what, um like, those two have to come together. And it's really hard for people to think about it, because when you see videos and photos of a father playing with his children, laughing, he's at the water park, at the on the train. Not every dad will get in the train at the mall. Not every dad will go to the splash pad. Not every dad is in the floor playing with their kids. And they're good dads, but they just don't do all that. And so we have all of this evidence, quote unquote evidence, of him being a quote unquote good father. But I can tell you, because I was married to a man like this, coached the baseball team, everybody thought he was everything. But when that baby got hurt, did he even think to be bothered to go be there with him? No. It's like, aren't you going to go be with him? Why? It's his mom's. It's his mom's weekend. Like, they're like, the thinking just, there's not a connection there. Like, something is disconnected. And so to people on the outside, oh, they love them. They're such a good father. They're such a good husband. They're such a good friend. They're such a good all these things. But when you don't see that monster behind closed doors, you don't really know what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, people are very quick to blame Shanann for, like, let's just say the girls' bedtimes. Why are they so early? Well, does anyone want to ask the question, was it potentially a fight early on? Like, was it a problem with Chris early on that Shanann just found a resolution for? And so they had very regimented schedules to make sure that Chris had ample time. Like, this is me asking questions. But like, the very things that people are hypercritical about Shanann with, like, if you really think of it in the terms of covert narcissism, because people want to call Chris a covert narcissist, but you don't want to apply the concept and the behavior to all aspects of life. If that's who he was behind closed doors, then guess what, guys? The dishes, the cleaning, her staying home, him working. If you're in a covert narcissistic relationship and you are staying home and the other person is out working, and certain things are not squared away and taken care of, and I mean, there's organized, and then there is what their house was. I don't care who you are. You got two freaking toddlers, two like young children. And I mean, that house, I didn't even see any dust in that thing. And I'm an organized Capricorn myself, but I can tell you, my desk right now is not organized. I can tell you that, certain parts of my house are not how I would like them to be. But I also don't have someone breathing down my neck right now telling me or making me feel insignificant or inferior if everything doesn't have a proper place. So my thing is, or my what I'm challenging you guys to how to think about this is the very thing that people look at Shania and say, oh, this was a strong point for her. It could very well be just a strong point. It could also be a reaction to something she's experienced behind closed doors that she never put on social media, that she never told her family. Because if you're going to believe that he's a covert narcissist, then you have to believe it across the board. And then if you apply that, then let's start discussing and talking about Shania's behaviors and what she chose to do and how she chose to do it. Because I think then it would make other things more understandable. So I shared that with you because I want you guys to understand that those who truly are incapable of loving, like they don't have that ability with their emotions, it goes all the way down to their kids, guys. And on a day-to-day basis, they look just like the loving, caring, supportive, encouraging father and husband. They look this way. And they are that way when other people are looking. But a real covert, gosh, I can't even talk, covert narcissist is, they're like it's two completely different freaking people that you're dealing with behind closed doors. And I just think that perspective in this case is everything. Let's see, everyone said Chris and Shania had a great marriage. They spent a lot of time around other people as a couple. I know, but think about what you just said right there. Everyone said that Chris and Shania had a great marriage. They spent a lot of time around other people as a couple. They were around other people, and then those people thought that they had a good marriage. And I'm saying this because my best friend since like the sandbox was questioning me when I was having like problems in my previous marriage. It wasn't until she heard an audio recording of how he was talking and the things he was saying and what he was doing that she was like, oh my gosh. Like she would have never fathomed in a million years that he would have talked to me the way he was, or that he would have been threatening me the way he was. And it literally took my best friend to hear it for herself before she was able to like come, bring it all together and say, oh my gosh, that's actually like what's going on. So these men who do this, they're skilled. Like they have mastered this craft because they have mastered the craft of the mask. And they've been doing it since they were kids. Exactly. It is exactly like that. And you never know which one you're going to get. I agree. Sprinkled donut. I agree. And I think, unfortunately, that's a lot of people. I mean, I'm 40 and I've only recently gotten to the point where I'm like, if I don't, it was this past marriage that really, really like snapped me to it. But it was like, if I don't want to do something, then I'm learning to say like, oh, no, thank you. And, let whoever wants to believe or think what they want to think. But if it's just not for me, it's just not for me. And being able to pick and choose, I always joke about like Runaway Bride, how Richard Gere's like, you don't even know how you like your eggs. And she's like, well, yes, I do. And then she like tells him, and he's like, yeah, but that was X, X number 2 or 3 or whatever, and come to find out it was like she always adapted to whatever they liked to do. And so she never actually learned like what she liked to do. Excuse me. What she liked to eat as far as like eggs. And so we as adults have responsibilities to take care of ourselves. And for Chris to grow up that way, I get it. But, you know, and I'm not saying that's what you're trying. I'm not by any means implying that what you're saying is justifying what he did. I'm just simply saying that is obviously not even an excuse. Like, we all grow up. We all have crap in our past. We all, you know, there's always something that we've had to overcome or endure, because that's, you know, that's how you grow. Life is a hard, hard teacher. You know, losing my niece, this has been so hard, but there have been lessons in this for everybody. And you just don't even want to hear them right now, you know, because the pain hurts. Yeah, they do. They start getting tired, and they start getting sloppy, and suddenly, and other people start seeing it. And you know, it took me almost 2 years to even go on the first date, and he's already engaged again. So let that one sink in. You know, talk about narcissistic supply and ever wanting to see a complete definition about it. I don't talk about these things with just frivolous thoughts and opinions. Like, I share with you guys rawness. I share with you heartbreak. I share with you the trials and, you know, testimony. It is testimony, guys. Like, I grew up in a church where you would go in and they'd say, does anyone want to give a living testimony? And then you would have to stand up in church and you would share with everybody in the church like what God had done for you that week. Like, that's the kind of church I grew up in. And I'm a firm believer that we go through things not to just hold on to it and, you know, pat it down and never tell anybody or never share it. It doesn't mean you have to be on YouTube sharing it, but you never know who you're going to meet. And the amount of people that are scared to talk about their traumas and what they're dealing with because they're scared of being judged. Like, that's what I tell my kids all the time. There is nothing you can think, say, see, or do that will make you any less. Like, it's never going to happen. And I know that's hard for some people to say, but I honestly believe that's how Cindy and Ronnie are. And honestly, that's how Sandy and Frank are. And Frankie. I mean, they've said the same thing. Like, they hate what he did, but they loved him. So, you know, I can never tell like when people are bots anymore or not on YouTube and whatnot, but I can tell you that this case was a tremendous, tremendous loss. And my family and I have had to deal with some of the compounded grief that's already been added onto it because of the media. And that was just a topic I wanted to make sure I shared with you guys tonight was, you know, with us having dealt with the media running with information that both parents should have properly been pulled into a room and you know, given the awful news that their daughter didn't make it out of the car accident. Like, they should have been in a room with some privacy and been given that information instead of pulling into the parking lot with a phone call because the news had already gotten the release from the hospital and they were running with it. You know, we should have had time to get to our kids at youth group before their cousins were all finding out that their cousin had died. Like, the media can be cruel and heartless because they're not thinking about the people that it's impacting. And I know that on my channel, I've tried my best to be very, very respectful of both sides, including Kessinger. I mean, think what you want to think. And you guys know I am all over the place with this case sometimes. But even with Kessinger, because until she's tried and convicted, we have to assume she's innocent. I mean, she's got to be proven guilty in a court of law. So I will share with you always like my opinions and thoughts about her involvement and things like that. But I try to stay objective with her as well, because I don't think there's very many outlets that if she ever decided she wanted to reach out and talk to, there's not very many that would give her a truly objective interview that's not prearranged with a narrative. And I mean, I don't think she'll be calling my name anytime soon, but you know, I'm here if she ever wants to do that. And I've said that before. I'll say it every time I mention that Defending Kessinger series. There's a reason for that. You know, if I had a few more answers, I could defend her even more. But I can't do that because I don't have certain answers to different questions. But if I had those, then surely would be, you know, I'd put more content out about that. They do. But the one thing I haven't touched on, I guess I've got 4 minutes left until 2 hours, and then we'll definitely wrap it up. But one thing I didn't touch on really was like the Facebook groups. Like we have a local, I mentioned it, but like we have a local community group on our Facebook, and we were sitting in the emergency room having just gotten the news about Keely, and Kylie was still in the ICU getting stabilized. And like the comment sections were already like, well, that's what you get when you don't wear your seatbelt. And, you know, want to know, was she high? Was she drinking? Was she this? Was she that? Was she on her phone? And it's just like, can we not pause for just a moment about the life that was lost? And then we can talk about the other stuff later. It's like, no, she was not intoxicated. No, she was not doing drugs. No, she was not on her cell phone. She ran off the road, overcorrected, and they were not wearing their seatbelts. And they both were ejected from the vehicle. Like, it was a bad accident that them wearing safety belts, maybe it would have been a different outcome. But we can't change that. Now, moving, you know, into the next coming months, then, yeah, we can talk more about raising awareness for making sure you're wearing your safety belt, and, you know, the importance of realizing that when you're behind the wheel of a vehicle, like, it can be the matter of life and death within seconds. Like, you know, there's certain things we can talk to kids about in the future, but it doesn't have to be the same freaking day that it happened. And so, yeah, there needs to definitely be just some awareness, situational awareness of what's going on. And the media really, really probably needs to go take a whole nother ethics class or something, because, man, and this was just a small town. And honestly, Frederick is a small town. I'm just drawing a blank. I'm tired, but Aberdeen, North Carolina, very small town, very, very small town. And, you know, when a news story breaks, it breaks, and I get that. But, you know, all of what they did, and then like yesterday, I went and got a newspaper that had the story of my niece in it from the day of the accident. And it's like they rushed and rushed and rushed to get their information, putting that mother in the situation she was in to not get the, you know, to get that information in the freaking parking lot instead of properly in a room. And literally, when you read the article, like, it's not even worth freaking reading. Like, it wasn't even worth the $1 I spent on the newspaper. So it's just like, I mean, if you're going to be that insensitive and that driven, at least freaking write a piece that's like worth reading. But that's my rant for the night. Anna, I agree with you here. I agree with you. Excuse me. Like, my thought process is right here with you. And I agree with you too, Sprinkle Donut, as well. It could be as, I think the bottom line for most people is that there was some type of involvement, and because there was some type of involvement, there should have been charges brought. But what people fail to recognize is, like, you can bring charges all day long, but if you cannot prove them in a court of law, they're not going to stick. And so if they charge her, then they have to turn over the discovery of all the information that they have that warranted why they charged her. So even if the prosecution was going to charge her with something less, like, they would have to hand all that over, and then her defense attorney would have a field day with it. And, you know, that is, that's just the reality of it. I don't think that they have what they need to charge her. I've just, I say that, and I'm even reluctant to say that because I have numerous other cases where they've charged for a lot less. Like, I'm local to what's going on with the Adelson case, and they are now on the 4. They're now on the 5th trial of a co-conspirator case. And all of these co-conspirators are getting charged with first-degree murder. And I did find out that Colorado follows the same, like, mapping that we do. So, like, if you, I don't know, I take that back. It's similar. I don't know if they have the same clause that we do, but, like, in Florida, we have a clause where if you're charged with like conspiracy to commit murder, if you're charged with that and they tack on the first degree murder charge to it, all you have to be found guilty of in order for that first degree murder to stick is something that you contributed resulted in the death of a human being. So, like, if you're part of a conversation and someone's debating on how to off someone, then I'm sorry, I read the comment, lost my train of thought. Oh my goodness. Oh, there we go. So in Florida, the conspiracy to commit murder and first degree murder will hold if, like, let's say you're having a conversation with someone, they're talking about offing someone, and you suggest, hey, well, you could do X, Y, and Z. If they go and do X, Y, and Z, and then it's implicated that you were part of that conversation and someone dies as a result of that, you could be charged with first degree murder here in Florida, and you didn't have to even touch a weapon. You didn't have to be there. Nothing. And we're talking, like, across zip codes not being here. Like, this murder occurred in Tallahassee. The grandparents, the wife, the grandparents, the brother, the hitman, the girlfriend were all down in Miami. Like, these people were not even local. And they have literally charged and tried and convicted every single one of them so far. Right now, they're going after the grandmother, and there's been a stall out on that trial. It was supposed to begin 1st of June, and they just gave us another continuance on that just the other day. I'm still trying to get caught up on what all was discovered. Apparently, they have a new criminal investigation started, and I think that means that they're going after number 6, which would be the grandfather. And I think they're going to save the wife for last. So, I mean, we're talking about, you want to talk about conspiracy to commit murder and first degree murder charges coming down with less evidence than what we have with Kissinger, and they've now convicted. They'll probably get a conviction with the grandmother. So you're looking at almost 5 convictions here in the state of Florida, where these people will be serving life sentences without parole for conspiracy to commit murder and first-degree murder, and they weren't even in the town. They weren't even in the city when the murder occurred. But because they were part of the conspiracy, they were all charged and found guilty with first-degree murder charges. So I don't know if Colorado has that same clause in it that we do, like that same attachment. But if they do, then I am so surprised that an attorney has not ran with it. Oh, Cowboy, I'm so sorry to hear about that. Let's see, there's always something fishy about Jim. I have a theory on this. I'm taking another photo because this is how I end up with some of my. I love it because I love that you guys inspire me on some of the videos. I have a theory on that's I've not heard discussed yet. I have a reason that I believe she was doing that at the time, but I think you have to think in it or think about it in the terms of the dating world. And if you're not in the dating world right now, you might not understand it. Let's see. I'm not sure how you feel about psychics. If you look up the Channeling Eric YouTube. See, here's the thing. I'm not going to say that I don't believe in psychics. I think you have to be careful before you open yourself up to certain realms like that. Like allowing yourself to be open and involved when you're talking about communicating with spirits and things like that. It's a realm that I don't discount it. I don't try to discredit it. It's one that I keep my distance from. But like I was sharing with you guys about the day of my niece, passing, the freaking anniversary of Derek Shepherd dying in Grey's Anatomy, and how Grey's Anatomy is something that we share with all of our kids, and we've all watched those episodes and things like that. And like her mom was saying how they had literally just watched an episode of Grey's Anatomy, and then she left the house and she went to go get she left the house to go get the dog's medication, and then she never made it, she never made it back home. Like the coincidences of these things happening, the comment she made about, oh, I'm going to be late to I'm late to my own funeral, Mom. Like she literally said that like a week before, and all the other girls being in their Easter dresses, and she just magically pulls out a black dress and wears it. Like she wasn't one of those girls that wears black all the time. She actually would wear flowery, girly girl dresses. But like, what are the freaking odds that like all of that happens all within like a 6-day time period? Like when you put it all together, it's like freaking mind blowing. And I'm not opposed to those things, but I think I've heard the Channeling Eric one before a long time ago, like when it first came out. I was even thinking about this today. It's the thing with the kids is what bought, like, I just haven't come to terms yet. And I really would like to go visit Chris in prison. I'd like to sit down across the table from him. Because like some things just don't add up, but some things do. And I know as much as some people want to say like, oh, I can't see him killing the kids. I can't really see it either, but I've also been with someone who had me fooled, had everyone fooled. And then I've literally watched him be so detached from his kid in a way that was like it made me sick. It worried me just how detached he could be from his kid. And like when you disassociate, if you are in the field of medicine, if you are in the field of like if you are a firefighter, EMT, EMS, any of that, like if you work in those fields, you're naturally taught to disassociate. Oh, this was another topic. Let me write it down before I forget. All right, that's it. That's another topic I had. And I think I did a voice note on it, but I just want to make sure I wrote it down so I didn't forget. But disassociation it's a big thing. And for some people in childhood, it is a survival skill. Depending on the type of childhood you've had, depending if you've dealt with sexual abuse or verbal abuse or anything like that, physical abuse, you learn to disassociate from the moment, from the pain, from the person. And when you're capable of that type of disassociation and you don't keep it in check, like that's what makes these kind of crimes possible. So I understand how so many people are like, oh, there's no way he could have done this by himself. And then on the flip side, no one was suspicious of Chris the day before. So my thing is, like, anytime after, like, what, 6 p.m. after the birthday party, no one else, like, Shania's dad FaceTimed the girls, and he could hear Cece and he saw Bella. But anytime after that, no one was suspicious of what he was doing. So he could have put the girls back in Shania's car and left the house, gone and done what he did. And then the only one that he had to do anything to would have been Shania when she got home that night. And so they say that, Anna. I'm going to jump to this one, and I'll go back to your Columbine comment. But they say this, but are you talking about the behavior panel? And I'm asking for a reason. Are you talking about the behavior panel that's on YouTube? I really like them, but I'm asking this for a reason. Let me know if you're talking about the behavior panel on YouTube. They're a great group of guys, but I'll tell you why. I'll have to look at her. My thing with this is, and it probably would relate to her as well, is they already know the outcome of the case. And when you already know the outcome of the case, you're going to draw those same conclusions. Because everybody's like, oh, he looks guilty. Well, in the beginning, he did not. Tammy Lee and them were like, oh, we saw that interview and we just knew this wasn't good, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. They might have had a better idea that this wasn't going to be good. But like here's the thing. They knew about Kessinger, and then they felt like they knew what had happened. His coworkers, sorry, my pup child likes to get up and down. His coworkers were like, oh no, that's Chris. That's just normal Chris. That's how he is. His friends were like, no, that's just who he is. That's how he acts. Like, that's him. And you have to consider this, like, they were talking about separating. Like, if you are married to someone that you genuinely don't have to worry about the kids, like, the kids are safe, you're not worried about that. She told you she was going to go off to a friend's house, and then you get home and they're not there. Like, you're not going to be, if you didn't have anything to do with it, you're not going to be at home freaking out that, like, oh my God, they're not at home, because she might be pissed off at you, don't want to talk to you. And she's already told you she's going to a friend's house and she took the kids. Like, leave her alone. And I really think that's what you hear Kessinger saying in her interview is like, leave her the fuck alone. Like, she's not being mean about it. She's just being like, look, if she left because she needed a breather, then leave her alone. She'll come back. So to me, people look at Kessinger when she says that as like being insensitive and everything. And to me, that's one of the most authentic things she says, because I probably would have told him the same thing. Like, dude, if she even remotely thinks she knows about the affair, she's probably losing her mind and she wants to take a breather. So just leave her alone. That's what I would say. I wouldn't be in that situation, but that's what I would say. And if you're the husband in that situation, and, he was probably nicer than I would have been, because I'd have been like, that, blah, 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 like, took my kids. Like, I would have said something like that. But if he's not trying to put her in a negative light, and he's still, being this, like, virtuous man that, everyone thought he was, and protect her reputation, not throw her under the bus with the freaking news media and the law enforcement. Like, and this is only talking about up to the point of being on the porch, guys. That's what I'm talking about. Up to that first porch interview. If he gets in front of the camera, like, how are you going to plead for your kids when you don't actually believe that they're missing? How are you going to plead to your wife to come home when you know good and well that you're the one that's been cheating on her? So she has every right to be pissed off with you and not come home. So to me, that front porch interview, like, the behavior experts come in after the fact and say, oh, he looks suspicious. But if you look at that porch interview on its own, not with the understanding of what happened afterwards, not with the confession, not with anything like that. If you look at that porch interview as a husband that's part of a marriage that's unraveling, they've already been talking about selling the house. That's proven. They both were talking about selling the house. They both knew what was going on within the oil industry. Shanann had put together about the affair. If in fact they had a conversation that morning and she said, I'm going to my friend's house, just leave me alone, like, I'll touch base with you later, then why are you going to be panicking? Like, there would be no panic. There would be no need for it. Does that make sense, guys? And I say this because I've gone through a divorce and I've gone through my kid being kidnapped while I was at work. Like, I know how I responded in that. And I mean, it was devastating for me, but it was because I knew that's what happened. And it was a much different situation. My baby was, 3 months old when his dad deployed, and he was almost 2 years old when the kidnapping happened. Like, it was very different ballgame. But in this situation, you've got them both mutually, like, trying to work through things, deciding it's over. And we see it on Shanann's side too. Like, she's being like, if he's done or if he's cheating, then we're done. So, like, if he knows that if he's caught cheating, that they're done, then there's really not an argument to have anymore at that point. Like, okay, we got to figure out what to do with the house and then what we're going to do next. So, I'll have to go check out her video. Let me take a photo of your comment too, just so I'll go look it up. I'm always all about looking at different professionals and seeing, like, what they say and how they compare. But that's my personal take on that front porch interview. it's one of those, like, as a parent, I would be pretty pissed off that my spouse took off with my kids and it had escalated to the point that I had the freaking news channel and law enforcement on my front doorsteps. Like that, by the time that happens, I think I would start getting like frustrated, but it would be frustrated at my spouse because it would be like, what the hell? Like, answer your phone, tell somebody where you are, that kind of thing. So I really didn't grow suspicious about I didn't grow suspicious about him after that front porch interview. That didn't make me suspicious. I'm trying to pinpoint exactly when. Like, I'm trying to pinpoint exactly when I suspected him. I think for me, it started to turn when he went in. I think it was for the second police interview, not the very, very first one, but it was like the second one, not the polygraph. Maybe it was the first one, but it was like when he's in, excuse me, he's in there talking to Coder and he's telling Coder that, he originally thought like she may have just run off with her friend, but now that like law enforcement's got involved and like she's still not turned up, like now he's kind of leaning the other way. Like when he made that comment, that's when it just didn't sit well with me. Like, the fuck do you mean you're leaning more the other way? Like, no, that means you're worried, you're concerned, you're like fearful. That's when you're like, hey, like something, like you're going to law enforcement saying, hey, something really isn't right here. Like, I can support the detachment and I can support the separation, um, and all of that. Well, but here's the thing. We have Apple Wallet. You have Cash App. We have Venmo. Venmo was being used back then. So if her friend came and got her and took the girls with her and she just left everything at home, she just want to be left alone for a little bit. Like, I could see that. Like, if you're coming back home in a few hours, like, hell, I don't always take my purse everywhere with me. I do, but I don't. Like, my kids know, like, my routine and stuff. But, like, I don't know. It's just kind of one of those things, like, if I'm going to, like, my cousin's house that's right up the road, I don't, I'm not always necessarily going to have, like, everything on me kind of thing. So that one, even then, that didn't really like ring out to me because it was kind of like, well, what if your friend like comes and gets you and the girls and you go off for coffee and you're sitting there and it's her treat for the coffee and you are, um, like you're out, you're having coffee and you're just chit chatting and talking, or the kids lay down and take a nap at your friend's house and so you're gone. I mean, there's a billion and one things that can happen that would explain away like someone not having all of that stuff with her. And I know people are like, oh my God, the EpiPen. It's like, yes, but no. Like there's several foods that Cece was eating that like, if her allergy was anaphylactic, then she wouldn't have been anywhere near some of those foods. So I'm not saying that she didn't have an allergy. I'm just saying, a lot of kids, when they have allergies and they've had one reaction, they will prescribe that EpiPen just to keep on hand in the event that the next reaction is worse or becomes anaphylactic, then they have the EpiPen with them. But my guess is by 3 years old, if Cece had not had an anaphylactic like reaction to what she had been exposed to, like, again, if you're going to the coffee shop and she's been to the same coffee shop 15 billion times, you're not really going to think of, like, I don't know, to each their own. Everyone's a little bit different. But for me, the purse and everything, that wasn't like, it made me kind of be like, I don't know. But it didn't make me go, oh, it was the husband. Looking at the porch interview, I still didn't think it was that. I mean, I'm literally thinking she could be gone, have left him, and just didn't say anything. Because if it's a domestic situation, you're told by defense attorneys or divorce attorneys all the time, like, you leave when the spouse is at work or when there's a least likely chance that there's going to be confrontation. That's when you leave. The flip side to that is, I was questioning, did Shanann run off with a friend and Chris knew where the girls were the whole time? Meaning, if Chris was alleged in a domestic type of situation and he was going to take the kids, like, we always think the mom's going to take the kids, but if the dad was going to take the kids, and let's just say Kessinger backed her SUV up to the fence because some damn body backed their vehicle up to the fence in the back. If in fact it was Kessinger's SUV that backed up to the fence, the girls got put in the SUV, and they were taken to a secondary location, because Watts knew that he was going to be leaving Shanann, and like he told law enforcement, he didn't think that they were going to be home when he got there. To me, that screams he was like, I had to take them with me, or they weren't going to be home when I got home. So that could be several different things. But if you're looking at it through the lens of a domestic situation, and the husband is taking the kids and leaving, then the wife gets pissed off and goes out with, her friend and just disappears. It's just a different scenario. Either way, he's going to be standing on the front porch, not worried about his kids, because he either A, knows that they're with his wife and that they're going to be taken care of. So he's not panicking. And then second would have been if he had sent the kids off on his account, and they were just being held somewhere different, and he was under the impression that they were safe. Yes, and agreed, sprinkled. Everyone said that Shanann didn't leave or go anywhere without her cell phone. But I can also tell you, as much as my phone is attached to me 24/7, when it's time to decompress or you need to breathe, that ringer gets shut off. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you're in a situation like the Watts were and what they were dealing with and what they were facing, she had just been so stimulated with being around people all weekend. It wouldn't have been unheard of for her to just not want to have it. This is true. This is true. That's why I have like 8 different cards on my phone. So you don't use Apple Pay, but I don't think that adding your debit card was part of the wallet yet back in 2018. That's why I was careful not to say that. But I know there was Apple Pay. I know that Venmo was a thing because Kessinger was doing Venmo around the sand dunes trip, things like that. But again, we all know the final ending and how it turned out. So, I mean, like, it's kind of a moot point at this point. But when it comes to looking at that front porch interview, his behaviors could have very easily been, and they were, explained away initially. I think it some of the stuff that he said in his interviews with law enforcement the second time or so. Yes, that's the one thing I've said. I would love to know the VIN number of that SUV, and I'd love to have about $5,000 sitting around somewhere, because I would go buy that SUV and have a crime scene team like rip that car apart. To me, in my opinion, that's the vehicle that moved everybody. That's my honest opinion. Whether she knew what she was doing or not, I firmly believe that that SUV holds the key to a lot of evidence that we don't have. But guys, we could go down all of these rabbit holes. You know it. You already know it. We've been doing it almost 8 years now. It is absolutely crazy. But I've really enjoyed having you guys here. Anna, Sprinkle, thank you so much for being active and interactive in the chat. I really appreciate you both. And welcome to the channel. I'm really excited to have you. You're coming in at a great time because the way the content is produced, again, I always reflect on it, come in, we'll have conversations like this, and then everything just starts coming about. It's possible. I've always considered that the plan was for the girls to sleep that morning, and he was just going to come home at a regular time and be there and get the girls. Like, I don't know. Because there's so much that, like, 1 minute I'll think it's one thing, and then I'll find another piece of evidence, and I'm like, no, it's not that. And they'll keep you on your toes, that's for sure. Yeah, that's a very difficult statistic for people to just grab onto. And in that manner, that's the thing, is that the manner of death for the girls is more indicative of a woman being the culprit as opposed to a male. And that to me is what's the most problematic about this case. Now, I know, like, Chris by no means was an alpha male at all. But there's so much about this case that it's almost like what they think they're protecting has actually created more of an issue. What was it? That if a person goes after someone's neck, they have a high propensity to unalive someone. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I don't know if I can highlight it. Let me look this statistic up real quick. Let's see. I'm looking. It's searching at the moment. Oh, okay. So here, let me share this. I'll share my screen with you real quick. Let's see. Share screen. This is just a quick Google search that I did. Where's Google? Here we go. All right. So this is just the AI answer. So I would have to do more digging. But it says research strongly suggests that individuals who engage in non-fatal strangulation, particularly in the context of intimate partner violence, have a significantly higher likelihood of later committing homicide, including strangulation homicide, compared to those who have not strangled their partners. That's interesting. I have one ex that I probably should keep an eye out on, see if that ever comes to fruition. I hope not, but that's crazy. I mean, that's a statistic I had not heard of. So thanks for showing or sharing that with me. I'm going to do some more digging into this because, try to keep things. I'll tell you when it's going to be a little bit more mature. I mean, obviously all of this I would think would be mature, but, when you're talking about strangulation, like within physical intimacy, what in the world prompts, like, where in the hell did that even come from? And I'm not knocking it or anything, but I'm just saying, like, I wonder if there's a correlation between the two. that we've seen cases where it's gotten out of hand and it's ended up becoming a death and it ends up being like second-degree murder. But from everything that it sounds like, Chris and Shanann had a pretty decent sex life, according to Shanann. So it's, then you can go back to trauma and childhood trauma. One of the ways that childhood trauma comes out in adults having an episode is sex. Like they become more, let's see, what's the word? They become more, I can't even think of it. But they become more like prone to having, I don't want to say promiscuous, but I don't think promiscuous is the right word. Yeah. I had one ex-boyfriend. I'm pretty mouthy. Like I'm not going to like let someone talk crap to me and me not respond back. And he had said something to me. It was really just ridiculous. And I questioned his, I was like, oh, so that makes you feel like a man or something like that. Like something to that effect was my comment. And like no sooner than I got the last word out, I was like 6 inches up off the ground by my throat. And that was a very scary situation. But that's why when you guys hear me talk about videos about, we're talking about the actual act and what happened and all of the things and why didn't she fight back and things like that. Like until you've been put in that situation, like I can tell you, like you're paralyzed until you put it all together, like what's actually happening. And then you start fighting like hell to get away. But, a lot of times by the time you start to fight, it's game over for you. So it's easy to Monday morning quarterback these things all day long because it's easy to say, oh, woulda, coulda, shoulda, or, I would have done this or whatever. Like you don't know. You really don't know. And it could be the same for Chris. He didn't think it was going to come to all of this, but then it came to all of this. And then now he's in prison for the rest of his life. Like, I don't know. And I know that he told Kate, like Sherilyn or whatever, like she said that like she had been thinking, or he had been thinking about it for like a week or something like that. And it's, you said Swoop. I'll have to look that one up. I don't even know that I believe that I'm not going to say he wasn't thinking about it or that he didn't ponder it or think. I could see him. I mean, he may have considered or thought about it like when it came to Shanann, but the kids, like, I'm really, really, I just don't know that I believe that. I feel like if you pay attention to what he said initially, his initial response is probably the closest thing to the truth without being the truth, if that makes sense. Because you think about it, he says she wasn't supposed to be there. He says he blames Shanann for doing it. And what did we just talk about? The statistics with women in that type of manner of death. Now, I'm not saying Shanann, but there's another woman at play in all of this. And if you've already said she wasn't supposed to be there, we know the statistic about women. We know the angle of stalking and online stalking that was occurring during this time period. We know about her past history and previous charges. And, you hear Chris say, they're not going to be my fingerprints, because they ask him, if we test that area under their necks. Like, is it going to be your hands on them? And he says, no, it's not going to be my hands on them. And those are areas where I mean, that's the initial confession. And those are the areas where I do believe he was being honest and he was being truthful. That's the only thing that has me like, that's why I keep covering the case, because I don't believe that it's resolved. And if it is, then show me the proof so we can put this away and focus on something else. And quite frankly, what the hell did the DA show Sandy and Frankie to prove to them that Kessinger had nothing to do with it? Because initially they questioned her. Initially they had their own feelings that she was involved in some way, shape, or form. Yes, Anna, I think that's right on the money, right there. Right on the money is what I think was happening. But everyone got so pissed off about him labeling Shanann in that interview that they missed the whole freaking concept of it. He put Shanann in there because if he had put Kessinger in there, it would have been a whole different ballgame. And then I think he snapped back into like, oh, let me be the savior mode, because if he could blame Shanann to take that off of him, he already knew he was going to prison for the rest of his life. So if he just took the fall for both of them, then the only one that was losing their life, like that was still alive, would be Chris. And Kessinger could still go free. Like, how the hell are you going to be sitting in prison for the rest of your life? And you're going to be like, oh, I hope she's out there. Like, I hope her life didn't get turned upside down too much. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, even if she didn't have any part in it, even if she didn't do anything and she didn't know, even if she is 1000% innocent in all of this, how could you possibly think that a crime like this is not going to impact her in her future? Like, that makes no freaking sense. But he's missing a few marbles up there anyway. But I don't know. I would love to sit down, like I said, across from him and just have a conversation. I'm really just curious about a billion and one different things, and wouldn't even have to talk to him about the case, because I feel like there's so many other areas in his life that people have not asked the right questions, that the reason we don't have the closure that this, online community seems to need is because it just doesn't freaking add up. The math is not mathing. It's not girl math. It's not boy math. It's not true crime mathing in any way, shape, or form. I don't know if I haven't read that book. Take a picture. My phone is so full of so many photos. All right. I got that. Well, Anna, I've really enjoyed having you in, especially in the chat. Really, really, really enjoyed it. And I do think I'm going to end it here, guys. I've been saying it, I think, for like an hour now, but I'm so, so happy that you guys were here. And it's been a really, really hard week, and I truly appreciate you guys just being here. It means a lot, and it feels good to start to get back to some of the normal things. But guys, just keep us in your prayers tomorrow, please. And I will be back soon. You guys will see some new content coming, and I'm working very hard to record it, upload it, and not announce that it's going to publish until it's already recorded and uploaded, because it never fails. Every time I say I'm going to post one, then something goes down with the phone or the computer and it takes forever. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys. Many thanks and good night, guys. Don't forget, if you're up for it, don't forget to head over to, don't forget to go over and check out Avon Thrifts on YouTube. Like I said, guys, that is the channel where I'll be doing the more lighter, like after we talk about all this darkness. Avon Thrifts is my channel where I'll be doing a lot of like sourcing for the thrift store, giving tips and tricks of how to like start all over from the ground up when you don't have a lot of money. And when I say a lot of money, I mean like I get things for free. And it's a lighthearted channel, but it's something that once I'm able to monetize that channel, it will be going to spin off the charity to help domestic violence victims. So I'm very excited about that channel. I appreciate you staying here, being here with me. And if you don't mind, just hitting that subscribe button and share the live, because this one it actually ended up being more in depth than I anticipated. So again, thanks guys. Good night.